Mindset Podcast. We're your guide as you make your way through life, getting better 1% every day. We believe that life is lived and true victory won through adversity. Nothing easy is ever worth it. We believe in the warrior.
Yeah, man. Welcome back. It's been a while.
It has.
So last time we talked, you got an eye transplant.
I did.
We were just talking a little bit about it. How did it go?
It's still going.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
still in there.
It's still in there. Just got, the guy looked at it the other day, said everything's doing fine. And because I had to explain to him that I had gone to the DMV and failed my driver's test because of his eye.
Did you?
And he says, well, we can give you a piece of paper that'll get you back. I said, don't worry about it. I charmed my way back into it a day later.
Charmed yourself back.
There's a warning to all you folks out there. When you go to get your ID for the state of South Carolina so that you can get on an airplane like they keep begging you to do, you're going to have to take your eye test.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I just thought that you were doing a public service. So
well, you kind of are.
Cured me of that shit.
That's what I get for helping.
Exactly.
Well, you messaged me the other day and were like, how would you like to talk to someone who's been through it and has been taking notes?
Well, it was like the whole empathy thing for Joe Biden. It really was. And it doesn't matter what your politics are. If you're a certain age, it was almost like watching a guy try to get sober. I mean, it was like you knew exactly what he was going through. And it just hurt my heart because you're sitting there going, the guy knows what's going on inside, at least from experience.
Yeah.
Since he's old enough to be my brother.
Yeah. Well, how'd you feel about that when you saw that go down?
I thought that he was suffering from what a lot of us suffer from, was where we're thinking clearly. We've got the whole thing in our head and it won't come out your friggin' mouth. It's a pathway thing, but it's probably the most frustrating thing about the whole experience.
Yeah.
You just get, we called it brain farts and we called it, old timers disease and all that kind of stuff when we were getting older.
Yeah.
But now that we're old, it's just there.
Yeah.
I heard Bob Dylan. I'm not comparing myself to Bob.
You can do that.
I heard Bob Dylan once say that one day he realized that he couldn't write songs the way he used to because the way his brain work had changed, and this was in his 50s. And there was a point where I actually understood that now, because it's like everything had, instead of when you're in a conversation with someone or trying to form a thought, it's not like a steady chain anymore, but there's a picture.
Yeah.
It's like the other day I was trying to think of the phrase gilding the lily.
Yeah.
And I got to the gilding part, couldn't think of what the friggin' flower was.
Gilding the frog.
But I had a picture of a lily in my head.
You're trying to describe this picture.
I know, it's because
like,
that thing.
Yeah. That stuff. Well, let me ask, what did you think? You think he was too old?
I think that he was too old to. It's hard to. He wasn't too old to beat Donald Trump.
Okay.
Donald Trump's not exactly a young guy either.
I know, that's what's so crazy.
We're seeing that now.
Yeah.
That he can't change course.
Yeah. Now that we're comparing a younger person to him, he looks like Biden.
Yeah. He's still out there talking about the same thing he always talked about, because they can't pivot because they've got a 78-year-old guy who's been talking about the same stuff for decades. And it's old dog, new tricks. And I'm telling you, they're screwed.
That makes sense, man. Well, so along those lines, I found this article because you sent me that text, and I found this article that made me think about that. It made me think about, like, I mean, I'm 50.
Oh, congratulations.
No, well, not yet. I'll be in August, 3 months. I'll be 50. And you know
So
that.
you're a fifth as old as the United States of America.
Okay, that's true. About to be 250th. That's right. The what is that? What is they calling it? The
They got a word.
Yeah, I don't remember the word.
No.
And that doesn't matter if you're old or young. That word is tough. So this article, 6 subtle choices people regret later in life and how to avoid them. Because I haven't been around that long, but I've made mistakes. I've had to fix things. I had to apologize a few times. Um, I've been an asshole. I've been a nice guy in between. So the setup for this is some choices seem convenient in the present, but are often a sure path to regret much later. So I don't want to get into the article necessarily. They just have these 6 things, and I just wanted to throw them out and let's go back and forth on it.
Okay.
Can you hear okay? Is
Yeah.
it okay?
I'm good.
Because I had somebody else in here, and he's like 21, and he was like, it's too loud.
Well,
Yeah, he's got ears.
Yeah,
Mine's cranked up.
and he listens to Billie Eilish.
Yeah, probably. So the first one, how you define your worth.
Okay.
Thinking about like the way I defined my worth when I was first starting working. When I first got out of college, I got my first job and started working. I defined my worth through identified with my work, like that.
Yes.
And so I felt pride in that, and it was like everything, now I don't give a shit. Well, I mean, I'm like, I do good work.
Yeah.
Like you either can see it or you can't. And I'm on the other side of it, and I know that like I am doing good work. And if you can't see it, then perhaps it's because you're not quite there yet to see. And that sounds arrogant because I have done some shitty work too, but I think that's part of it too. Or maybe you identify your worth through how much money you make, stuff like that.
Oh, well.
What about you? How has that changed for you?
The self-worth thing comes almost in the form of just do no harm.
Mm.
When you realize that, I still work some, and
Yeah.
but you realize at some point to where, you're closer to the end than you are to the beginning, and that there's people behind you. This is my wife's pet peeve, is that old white men won't quit their jobs.
We were just talking about that.
and we refuse to move on, and she's probably right.
Probably.
And so I guess that whole self-worth thing with your job, and I've never had any trouble with that. I mean,
is that self-worth, or is that just power or perception of power?
I think it's perception of power. Is also convenience, because as long as you get your self-worth from something outside yourself, then you obviously don't have to work on yourself.
Right.
And so, these guys that are just so caught up with doing well, however they want to define that, it's going to change, just like you said. Give a shit.
Yeah,
I do good work. There you go. Don Draper said it famously. That's what the money's for.
Yeah, he was very wise.
He was.
He was as drunk as he was wise.
He was. That's why I have so much respect for him. And that's the truth. I mean, there's if you get caught up in the competition thing and the ambition thing, you're doomed to failure, simply because you haven't defined yet what that end point is and why that's your end point and how that will make you happy, because that's all you see is do you watch that Industry on HBO?
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, the new season just started, and that's what the exact thing was about self-worth from your work. And then I've got a goal, and now I've reached that goal, and now what?
Right. Yeah.
Because we never planned past the
Yeah.
achievement part where I can only beat my chest and say, look at me for so long.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I kind of run hot and cold on goals anyway. You know, I find them like most people's goals sound to me, again, without sounding arrogant, they just sound kind of random.
Yep.
You know, it's like, my goal this year is to make 300K. And it's like, why that? Like, why not 1 million, you know, or why not just 20K? Like, what? I don't understand.
How about as much as you can and be satisfied?
Yeah.
with that?
Or just be satisfied, like, just be happy, you know, like whatever. I don't know. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
How do you define your worth these days? How are you?
Doing a do no harm.
Yeah.
Try to in the work that we do, we got the Airbnb and we got all this other gig stuff that we do, and I still do that as well as I can. My wife's got a really meaningful job that I love to be codependent about. And we've just got this whole property to take care of now to get, so that it's worth a lot of money when we decide we're going to sell the damn thing.
Sure.
And and then the thing with the recovery community, I think everybody needs a community to go into, and at least a sounding board community.
And you're still active in going to meetings and helping people.
Yeah. If I show up here,
that's incredible.
High one day, then you'll know I quit because
oh my God,
it's the craziest damn thing about that disease is that I keep having to go and have people tell me I got a disease.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I can eat all I want to now because I've got Ozempic.
Yeah, that one's crazy. What do you, sidebar real quick, as a former doctor?
Yeah.
I mean, once a doctor, always a doctor, but practicing, what do you make of that?
It's probably not going to end well.
Yeah.
They at least as far as this rush to this particular strain of drugs, because it's the medical institutions of America.
Yeah.
If you want to hear that.
Yeah.
Perfect example. I got a cardiologist because they give you one. And so
they give you one.
Listen, every white wing son of a bitch out there, I guarantee you he's taking his Social Security and his Medicare money right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And probably his disability check. His draw for the month, as they used to say on Justified. But we're talking about the medical community. I went to the cardiologist. They came in and they did the blood work. And the lady says, we got your blood sugar. There's nothing to worry about. It's a little high. Did you ever consider you wanting to lose any weight?
So they're selling it to you.
Yeah. And I said, but I'm at the cardiologist. I'm not expecting to pitch for Ozempic.
Right.
But evidently somebody will pay for it.
Okay.
To do a workup so that my blood sugar was high enough to where I could go and do.
So, yeah. Right.
$250 a month.
Right. So they're actively selling that stuff.
Yeah.
Which it just has shades of opiates to me. Like, I know they're not opiates. They're completely different things, but it just feels like it's being presented the same way a lot of times.
Well,
that ended great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, they'll get that Sackler family on this thing. Yeah, those guys know how to market.
Oh man, it just has shades of it. It just kind of feels like it.
Well, and it's too new.
Yeah,
they don't. I'm from that, and it's not in the same realm, but still, I'm in that generation to where nobody had done enough work yet to find out how cocaine was going to affect us, and the whole world decides.
They used to put it in Coca-Cola.
Exactly. And Quaaludes came out as the answer to barbiturates.
Yeah, sure.
And so here's Ozempic, and so I'm like, okay, I realize this is not quote addicting, and you don't get quote high off of it, but my goodness,
but things can be addicting in different ways, for sure.
Oh yeah, the appearance thing is going to be the thing that kills us this time. The VA went bankrupt off all the smokers from World War II, and now they're just going to go bankrupt from all the diabetics off of my fat ass and all of my generation. And so this looks like an answer to them. Yeah. And so everybody's all for it because until they're not.
Well, let's look at the other one. Being too busy impressing people and relegating your priorities. That's a lot. We can just talk about the first part. Being too busy impressing people.
Oh gosh, you would hope we're past that.
Yeah.
But gosh, it sure used to be a big part of life.
Yeah.
You know, there's a
It was for me too, man. I don't understand why.
oh,
I don't understand why I gave a shit.
I know, and it's just the back patting and everything else, and then I heard somebody recently say something that our parents probably did the best they could,
Yeah.
even though we're all totally screwed up.
Yeah.
And just think about what their parents were like for them.
Yeah.
And they're actually probably a big improvement of how they got parented. And so it just we're always kind of a generation late on how we raise our kids. It's because we're using the example that we had from a generation, in my case, that went through the friggin' depression.
Right.
My daddy's eating green bean sandwiches. He think he gave a shit if I had new jeans or not.
That's a good way to put it. It's a very different outlook.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, what's the answer there? Do we need, like, I forget who was telling the joke, but who was saying, like, what we need? We need a real depression. like frying pans on the sides of donkeys. Like, like Dust Bowl level depressions to sort of reset everybody.
Well, and I think that, and I really think that the 2008 depression was more centered around certain industries.
Yeah, it was
instead of like the one in the in the 29 where just
it was everybody
shut down.
Yeah,
It was like COVID, except it what?
It's like COVID, but money.
Yeah, nobody had work.
Yeah,
nobody. And so my answer, of course, like, hey, right, stay off my. My answer is to bring back the draft. To bring back public service.
I don't know about a draft, but me and my 21-year-old son and my 18-year-old son were talking about this, and they both agreed that, like, they think, like, everyone should be do mandatory public service. I mean, figure out the details of, like, free college or money, like, figure all that out. Like, that doesn't, those are details. Make sure it's equitable, but, like, going through some sort of mandatory public service would really set everyone mentally to, like, understand what the hell it means.
I think that if you take away somebody's I call it freedom.
Sure.
You've taken control of their life away from them for 2 years. That's what happened. That's what got us politicized. And I'm back on my soapbox again. Mm-hmm. The reason we all got politicized when we were young was because our country was going to send us to fight in a foreign war that we had no business fighting. It
mobilized everybody,
and it got everybody on one side or the other.
Right.
And it sure politicized everybody over at that university.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing a bunch of 19-year-old boys want to do, is be told they're fighting for the country and there's nobody over there that looks like me I'm fighting against.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
No,
it doesn't make sense on paper. It doesn't make sense when you get there.
And so that got us all politicized.
Yeah. And
now there's just no impetus for it.
Right.
You just sit there and watch friggin' TikTok all day.
Yeah.
Hey, watching TikTok. And so
you just get your soul sucked out through your eyeballs.
I know.
I agree.
And it'd get I think it'd get people more involved in government again, and you don't end up with some guy having sex with his couch.
Yeah, for sure. I think
oh, Gene, he never did that.
Come on, we all did.
That's pretty funny. How does that relate to impressing other people? I don't know. But,
well,
it sure is relegating your priorities, though. It's if your priority is, the next thing in your swipe list versus, like, giving a shit, It's a big difference.
Yeah, and it's the old axiom where what people think of me is none of my business. And so if I'm out there, and gosh, why does all this come so late?
Yeah.
But if I'm out there doing the right thing and being a nice guy and being empathetic toward people and their struggles, then I'm probably going to make a pretty good impression without trying.
Well, yeah. And this leads me to another thought, which is something that you didn't have to deal with. I mean, I'm Gen X, born 74. Like, I didn't have to deal with it in college. But my kids do, your kids probably do, is social media. So, worrying about impressing other people, like, that's all there is now. Like, the world is impressing other people with your pictures, and like, you always see everybody on Instagram, everything's perfect, but then you know them and you're like, your life is falling apart, but your picture looks pretty good, and it's like, that's the world we're in. I mean, what do you make of that when you see that? I mean, I'm sure you're like most people, you're like, you full of shit, but I mean, what do you make of that when you see that crap?
Well, first I'm entertained, but there's a certain, there's a certain amount of sadness there, because I know these people are trying to get some type of validation, because that's what I'm doing.
That's all it is.
I mean, they're trying to get some kind of validation to say, hey, I'm here. And I don't think anybody has thought to what the end point of this. I mean, what's the point? If you're going to go, my wife and I went down to the beach and watched this girl and her mother do the thing.
Yeah.
The girl was like doing ballet out in the edge of the surf, and her mother's taking pictures and filming it and everything. And I'm sitting there going, God almighty, I'm glad I didn't have to go through anything like this.
I mean, can you imagine the way, so we're not there yet, right? Well, I think we're kind of getting there, but so you're these kids that grow up, and that's what, like, everyone's taking your picture. They're putting you first. They're putting you out there in front of everybody. Like, what does that do to you as a beginning adult and into an adulthood? It's going to make you very narcissistic and centered on your own shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
there's a deep, dark depression waiting on you at the end of all that.
I think so.
Unless you got a plan B, and I'm sure they don't, because we didn't.
No. And, like, I think about, I don't want to make my parents sound bad, but like, my generation was the one, you listen to the stories and it's like, well, we went out in the neighborhood at 8 a.m. and we didn't come home until dark. And they didn't know where we were ignored. So it's like, you got the Gen X generation that was like ignored, basically. Now you got the new generation that's like, they're filmed every fucking minute. And it's like, we're very different.
Yes.
I mean, Gen X is going to be the new boomers pretty soon, but
I still, you don't know how to parent it is the real thing, because like when, like I said, I grew up with the green bean sandwich guy. And then,
so it's like an overcompensation, I guess.
When my kids were in middle school, all of a sudden, here's the internet.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, I don't know computers.
Yeah. What the hell is that?
Yeah. I mean, I watch Apple and commercials on TV, but to me, it seemed like a $2,000 messaging machine.
Right. Well, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still kind of is.
But then you're sitting there going, now, how do I even parent this with my kids when I don't even know what it is?
Right.
Let alone what's on the other end of that cord.
Right. And we have that now with these things.
Oh, those things,
I
that's why they think that we didn't go to the moon, because we didn't have these things in 1969.
Well, my kids didn't really get one until they were like 13, 14. And I see conversation with people like, my kid's 7. Is that old enough? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not sure if 13 or 14 was old enough. I'm not sure, 50 is old enough. Like, I mean, no.
I get them a burner like a dope dealer. I'm get them a damn smartphone.
A Cricket with like, call Dad.
Bumblebee.
All right. Number 3 here. Choosing career over your family. That'll leave you with some regrets.
Depends on how much you like your family.
Yeah.
I think that.
Oh man.
some people just don't like their kids.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not one of them, but
Yeah.
I've experienced that with people
Yeah,
before.
for
and
sure.
boy, they get married to that job then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
Hmm.
And you see a lot of that out there in the
Well,
501c3 world.
so what I'm interested in with that is that, like, let's say your dad,
Mhm.
he was, I mean, I don't know anything. I'm just spitballing, but he was probably the sole breadwinner in the family, right?
No,
Your mom worked too?
yeah, she was a politician.
Okay. So like my mom stayed home, my dad worked, and he was gone a lot. Not, it wasn't travel, like he was during the day working, he'd come home, work, you know. It's kind of a different thing if you're like that person that makes the money for the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's more of a, I don't know, it's a responsibility, you know, versus now we have like two parent working income homes or whatever. Both are working, and it's more professional choices and things that begin to get in the way. I don't know if I'm just like generalizing that way too much, because obviously everyone has different circumstances, but the difference between, like, you know, one person working all the friggin' time because they have to, you know?
Which used to be the norm.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my mom worked because, well, she was a smart person who needed to work, but she was in education because that was, that
Yeah.
and nursing, that was about it for her.
Right.
And so they both worked, and so they were both gone. So I was raised by another lady.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my brother were raised by this lady that my dad would go pick up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we'd take her home every night, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
At 6 o'clock. And I got raised by her, and it gave me a whole different perspective on, race, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Because I'm basically raised by a black lady.
Yeah.
That I had no relation to, and she neglected her children in order to take care of me and my brother. And that was late in coming to me as far as a realization too.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a big.
I mean, I loved her like I love my own mother,
Of
but
course.
it never dawned on me that this woman was actually sacrificing to
Right.
raise the two brilliant geniuses that me and my brother were. Anybody would be honored to spend 10 hours a day with us.
It's like Shirley on Brady Bunch, you know, where it's like you're like, what does she do? Like they didn't know, you know.
Ah,
And they would like go to her apartment or whatever and see her boyfriend, and they're like, this is so weird, you know. Like when you see your school teacher like somewhere else, like you don't live at the school, like what is going on? It just blows your mind. I can imagine that was like, whoa.
oh yeah. My mother was the principal of the elementary school at one point.
Okay.
And so I didn't think I could ever take credit for anything. I always figured it was somehow she had pulled a string, and that's how I got the citizenship award. And then if I failed,
Right.
it was like, oh
like,
my God,
yeah,
she's going to beat me when I get home.
you embarrass the family.
Yeah, that was one way that popular culture actually saved me. My mother was, capital corporal punishment back in the day. They send you to the principal's office to get your butt beat.
Yep.
And so all these 8th graders would get sent to the office. My mother would beat their butt, and then when I'm walking home, they'd all run after me wanting to whip my ass. And so my uncle owned the theater in town.
Okay.
And so I would run from the elementary school to the theater, climb up in the projection booth and watch movies until my mother got off work and could come pick me up.
Oh, wow.
And that set the tone for me and the institutions of education, I think, for the rest of my life.
That would do it. That would do it. Yeah, I was right on the cusp of, some teachers did it, you know, and then some didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They always had the paddle on the chalkboard.
Oh yeah,
like sitting up there. It was like, that's an option. Like,
man.
Oh shit.
And up in the mountains, I think they were damn drawing straws to see who could
do it.
I just could not wait.
I've raised kids, I know.
Uh,
All right. Prioritizing money over holistic success.
well, I'm not so sure it's our fault, but at least we should have enough sense to know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we get talk about. That's all the media's ever done.
Yeah.
Or the media that we consume, whether it's entertainment or whether it's anything else.
That's for sure.
It's like the whole thing with the guy running for vice president, and people are saying he doesn't have enough money.
Right.
And so I heard that yesterday, and I was like, man, this country.
I know you can't.
It's like it wouldn't matter if the guy had sackcloth and ashes and was walking off of there, and Mount Olympus.
Has it always been like that you've noticed?
Yeah, since that damn depression.
Yeah,
it's like that thing screwed up that generation so badly, and World War II, of course, bailed them out.
Sure,
but still, it impressed them so badly that that's all we heard about when we were kids.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know people that I just want to say like they grew up poor. I mean, that sounds sort of insensitive to say it like that, but they grew up in a house, like maybe it was a single parent house or whatever. They struggle with money or whatever, and now they have serious money issues, like their perception of money or their goal setting is based around owning things or possessions or making like it, that's kind of where they are, and it's like this thing that they struggle with. I'm lucky I don't have that problem. I mean, like I recognize it, and I'm lucky that my success metric in life has never been millions of dollars. Like I just
I'd take it.
I'm not going to turn it down. I mean, and I'm not afraid to work hard. It's just like there's other things that I enjoy.
Well, I think it just got so impressed on us that only way to live was to make a buck, and then
but making a buck like at the expense of others,
mm-hmm.
that's kind of the dirty part,
Oh yeah, it's like
and I know people that do that.
We've come from watching Jimmy Cagney try to muscle his way through life, making a living in a mill or something like that in an old movie, to watching Kendall Roy on Succession.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
And it's it's as much of a fantasy as the Hobbits are.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's limited people at the top there. All right. Failing to communicate your love openly and honestly. That should be the last one, but
yeah. Well, another thing that passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah, my dad didn't hug me much.
No, we're not huggers.
And to this day, I don't like it. It's weird.
Really?
I mean, I do it because it's like, don't be a dick. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, but like, I'm not that person, and I'm not blaming him, but because, he was raised during the Depression. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure it was like, get to work, boy.
My dad had 5 brothers. I bet
you
can count on one hand how many times those 5 hugged each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's 5 of them.
Yeah,
same thing. It's weird.
No, I think we made it a point at some point to try and express it more, especially as a parent.
You feel that?
Yeah, that's one thing as a parent you just got to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my goodness, if you see how your dog reacts to it,
I know.
Why don't you do the same thing for your friggin' kids?
I know.
Everybody loves to be scratched behind the ears.
Yeah, they do.
And
can you do it?
All we wanted. I don't think so. I think that the fact that you're loved and that you're protected, at least up to a certain point.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do it too much, because if the world's always been too full of the people like that weren't that loving.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's like the greatest. I mean, if I had a worry, it's like the greatest worry is to like leave this earth and not knowing if people understood that,
Yeah.
That's like something I carry around all the time. You just want to make sure that you understand, you're important to me. And do you really understand that? And you just kind of like, I don't know if you do,
No. And it was, all that stuff for us is all self-taught, I think.
I think so.
Honestly, we sure as shit didn't get it from our education system.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
And,
Yeah.
That's what my mother toward the end of life said about George W. Bush. She said he is a perfect example of the failure of the public education system.
Well, yes.
Let me take a short sidebar. My mother had to have carotid artery surgery, and it was on 9/11 of all days. So she has this carotid artery surgery. She comes out, and remember, it's 2001, and they asked mother, to see if she's coherent. They say, Miss Paget, who's the president of the United States? She said, Al Gore. And Dad said, she's fine. She doesn't. She doesn't recognize the legitimacy of the Bush.
I mean, she's still working.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
People forget about that whole situation.
Of course they do.
It's kind of funny.
The winners write the history.
The hanging Chad.
Yes, sir.
They forget about that. They were in the room counting those damn things. Like,
but that election wasn't stolen.
No. It's just kind of funny. It's like, that one was a little more gray than the one, 4 years ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, and still even had the Supreme Court decide.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell? That thing went to court, bro.
Yeah, remember Catherine? What's her
I
name?
know.
Catherine Harris, was that her name?
I think it was. Yeah,
I can't remember because she's kind of hot.
Yeah, but people are like, precedent this, precedent that. I was like, bro, we went through this.
Yeah,
like we know what to do. Like, they've been working on this. Like, come on, man. It's not confusing. It's kind of funny.
They forget why we went to all this electronic stuff in the first place, because people can't punch a hole in a friggin' card.
I know. All right, the last one. Focusing on uncertainties, aka worrying.
Yeah.
You don't strike me as a worrying type. Maybe you are in a different way, but
the control. I used to be so bad, and now it's down to like 2 or 3 things. But yeah, the whole part with being able to figure out what I got any control over and what I don't have any control over, and once you go through that mental exercise, even though it may not be emotionally fulfilling all the time, but if I go through that mental exercise of what's really going on here and what have I got control over, even though it might be something like, oh, they just don't understand me. And, and the last thing I've learned to do is to beat that dead horse. But anyway, it's just, what you've got any control over, which is, you do all you can do. And I got a control over my reactions and my actions, and that's it. Afraid so.
Yeah, that's how it works.
If you're a butthole, I'm sorry, you're a butthole. There is nothing you can say hardly that'll fix it.
No, you're gonna end with that one. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I worry about different. I usually, if I obsess about anything or worry about anything, I worry about someone's understanding of what I tried to do or say. Like, did I do everything I could to make sure you understood what the hell I was talking about? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where my mind starts to spin, and I'm like, well, I can't go back and, then it's weird.
Yeah.
You kind of want to be weird either. But I tend not to, like, if it's a situation and I go through that mental exercise of like, well, that's not something I can control. That's the world, and I kind of have to wait and see what happens. It kind of like gives me lifts the weight, because I'm like, well, no shit I can do about it.
It's freeing because you don't have that to lug around with you. The what ifs. When
it's something that I can still kind of affect that I'm like, shit. I don't know.
Well, and these things don't help either.
Because it keeps hitting you in the face.
It used to be tongue and pen, and now it's just the damn go button on your phone or your computer. It's like, fuck you, enter. And it's like, oh no, why did I do that?
Yeah, man.
Now, if Apple would just take the thing where you can remove the message and it doesn't tell the person you removed the message. That's the new.
For sure. let me ask you this. It sure seems like communication, whatever form you want to call it that, I'm going to say social media or just internet, communication is a hell of a lot more negative the past 2, 3, 4 years than it has ever been. I mean, you've been around through some, Nixon, Vietnam. We were just talking about that. Like, do you feel like it's more negative now, or is it just volume?
Both. You've got a whole lot more volume, and you got a whole lot more people doing it because a whole lot more people think they've got a stage. They think they've got a platform, and everybody thinks they're funny, and
Right.
and everybody gets on the internet, and it's a whole lot easier to be negative than it is.
It is.
Because you don't have to have an answer. You can just bitch.
Just critique.
Yes, just critique it. Like, well, anything.
Yeah. Just look at what Teddy Roosevelt says about critics.
What did he say?
That famous poem, man.
Oh.
The Man in the Arena,
Yeah.
like just critics suck.
Well, and there's criticism, and then there's just assholiness.
Yeah, you just don't like everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you think you're being cute half the time, and then
you're not.
No.
You're not helping.
No.
Yeah. It feels like every movie, every bit of music, anything, like we don't like it before we even see it. We're just like, I don't like the idea of it. Just like, damn. I don't know if you watch YouTube much. There's stuff on YouTube, but it's just like, I mean, my feed is just full of just like negative reviews, and I actively don't watch those, and I find the one that's positive and I watch that, and it's still like the algorithm won't change. It's like, I just don't think they're out there.
I've done the same thing in the whole run, which is to find a few people whose opinions I respect.
Yeah.
And hopefully
just them.
And just them.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like for me, The Ringer is my go-to podcast bunch.
That's a good one. Yeah.
If I want to know what anything's going on,
right,
I go to those guys because, what I've heard through the years makes a lot of sense to me. And even if I haven't thought of it, which is hard to believe.
Right.
But, and maybe maybe that I'm being siloed, but still I'm looking at it from like just music and entertainment and criticism like that. I can make up my own damn mind if I like Barbie or not.
I know. I don't need to watch it and form an opinion.
Yeah.
I don't need to spend 15, 20 minutes letting you tell me what my opinion should be.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't need that.
Believe me, I already know Margot Robbie's a nice looking girl.
No,
you don't
have to convince me.
No. Send me some pictures. I'm just kidding.
Well, I got those. You can get those on the internet. That's all Instagram is anyway. Was it butts and opinions?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, for real. Well, man, what else you got? What else what else is on your mind these days?
Oh gosh, nothing. Just trying to get through to November. I mean, that's one good thing about having being closer to the end than it is the beginning. It's the fact that I'm not as worried. I don't have as much existential worry about this. My generation's already got screwed up the planet. Y'all just gonna have to keep from burning to death. That's how I always looked at it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we started Earth Day.
Yeah. I kind of subscribe to I'm sort of in the middle. I mean, I'm not talking about specific people. I'm not talking about Trump or Biden or anything, but generally speaking, I like to think that most of us are just kind of in the middle. You know what I mean? I mean, you're a Democrat, left leaning, over 60. You know what I mean? That seems rare.
It does.
But just 20 years ago, it wasn't.
No.
I mean, in this very state, we had Democratic governors.
My wife just saw Dick Riley the other day.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was like, gosh, that's almost like somebody coming off the mountain.
But Dick Riley wasn't like he's not like a liberal
No.
dude.
No.
Like it's just so crazy how it's just gotten so like
Fritz Hollings.
yeah, is any of these guys is not it's just gotten so like polarized,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I do think we're talking about the internet. I do think that plays a huge
Yeah.
role in our perception of things, because those devices, that software shows us those things that validates the thoughts we're already having, you know, and I think that's a real bad thing. So I try to prune my stuff, you know. I try to like we were talking about earlier, I try to only listen to people that's sort of in the middle. This is not a campaign for Joe Rogan because he's a crackpot, but like, you know, I do try to stay in the middle, the
Mhm.
objective place, and it's just kind of funny that most people aren't.
No. Well,
I mean, I can still vote a certain way.
mhm.
I could still vote for a Democratic president, and I can also say that Joe Biden's way too fucking old.
Yeah.
Like I can have the same two thoughts in my brain at the same time.
Yep.
You know, and it just seems like you're not allowed to. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's crazy.
I think the whole thing with the whole Biden ordeal over the last year, you know,
Yeah.
I think it just brought the whole thing home as to
Yeah.
the whole aging process. As far
Yeah.
as mental capacity, and like I said at the beginning, I'm sitting there thinking, I bet you the guy is still there inside his own head.
Oh, sure.
He just can't get it out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
trouble we all have.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating.
You spend your entire life taking vitamins and taking supplements and lifting weights and running miles and miles
Mhm.
so that you can.
Time is the only opponent that's undefeated.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's undefeated. You can't beat it. I don't care who you are, what you think.
No, and you can live to be 100 and be a miserable son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a whole nother podcast. So as far as how
we take care of the elderly.
everybody wants to hear that.
Well, that's why it was you texted me that, and I'm interested in that because, you know, we're gonna soon be in a place where there's more. If we're not already, I don't have any stats planned or anything, but like where there's more older and elderly than there are young.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're not there already, we will be very soon. You know, and it's a whole process that we're gonna look at as a country of like, those people are leaving their jobs. Those people are getting older. Those people are going to need to be helped, you know, and whatever it is, you know, we're going to be doing that, you know, like the younger people are going to be doing that, you know, it's there. And also, you know, something that I've learned is like, if I'm in the room with someone who's been through a lot more shit than I have, I usually shut up and I listen, you know, and I think we need to do more of that too, you know. I just do. It doesn't mean that all those old white guys should stay in their jobs forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can listen, you know.
And something that's given me so much, and this is my own fault for who I associate with, but we're putting on a 40th reunion of Rockefellers.
Mm,
It opened Labor Day
I saw that.
of 1984. I know, and went for a long time. And it's had, the greatest thing about it is there's about 14 of us that got together that have not gotten together as a group since probably 1995.
Wow. That's cool. Or maybe not. I don't know.
It's just been great
That's cool.
because there's something else to talk about with a bunch of old people besides what doctor they went to see today.
Yeah, that does start to happen.
And how the friggin' weather is. And these guys are just great. I mean, there's a couple of guys in there who I just love dearly who are even older than I was. And they were talking about how they drove to Florence last week to see Dave Mason. I was like, God, I love you guys. That's why I need to hang around with y'all a lot more than I hang around with the rest of these quote normal people.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. That was cool. It was enlightening. It was enlightening for me. I mean, I dig it. Thank you for
I appreciate it.
sharing, continuing to share your life with us.
Yes.
It's awesome. I appreciate it.
see what happens. We'll come back after November, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be great
Yeah.
if we're still here.
Yeah.
I got your back if shit goes sideways, man.
Well, you know, I'm spending your Social Security money every month.
All right, dude.
All right, man. Thanks.